everybody, we're going to do an important safety check. Since we don't know what the history is of these brakes so far, we're going to use a tester on this to, and a few other things, including our brains, sensory inputs, to make sure we're all good here. So on this E90, what we're going to do is get to the brake reservoir. So if you're looking at the engine, it's actually in the US, at least, is on the driver's side. So this is the left side of the car as you're sitting in it, the right side as you're looking in it. To get to the brake reservoir, you need to remove a rubber piece that's right here. This just lifted off on mine. And then this one's a little trickier. There is a piece here that you need to kind of push back. At least this is how I did it. I pushed back on this. And if you look, this is kind of keyed in there, so it will hold this piece in place. I totally didn't show you that, so let me try again. You push this in and then it kind of like sits on top and holds it down. That's really important because you don't want your brake reservoir to be kind of messed up. On the side are a couple of clips. Mine have already been undone, but if you didn't do that, you can get in here and see very little. And then there's basically a little lip that you catch. There's one of those on the back as well. And once you've got that, you can lift this up and set it off to the side. So brakes, what are we looking for? So when we look at this reservoir, we want to look at a few things. We want to look at the level, which might be a little hard to see on camera. I'm going to shine a light in here so you can see. There's our level. It's right at max, right? And the other thing we're looking at is the color. So do you see how it's kind of like a glowing yellowish color? Part of that's the light, right? But that's also good. It's somewhat see-through. And so we know this is probably not old brake fluid. The next thing we're going to do is take off the cap and actually use our tester. All right, so we want to use the powers of science for this. Now, back up a little bit. A couple things to note. One is there is an electrical connector here. That's the sensor. So if you actually leave this unplugged accidentally, the car will think there's no brake fluid. The next thing we want to do is make sure this area around here is clean, because we do not want to risk getting any additional dirt, sediment, whatever into the brake system. So it is keeping us from crashing into things. So we want to be nice to it. Okay, so then it's pretty simple. You just twist this thing off and you will set it kind of off to the side. Now, here, let me put this back in, because what I want to do is set that on a clean part of this rag here. All right. And try not to get too much on here. All right. So again, this is where we do another visual of the liquid itself. So in being able to see it a little more close up, it does look a little darker. And it could be old, right? So it doesn't necessarily mean it's bad, but that could be something that's on our list for the future, right? Again, we're looking at just making sure that things are, well, we're just making sure, looking at ways that things are good now or need urgent help, or we need to keep an eye on. Okay, so with this brake tester, I've taken off the cap, and I'm going to put this into the reservoir, so the little electrodes are touching here, right? And then it's going to be hard to see that, but then I'll push this button at the top, and it will tell me what the moisture content is, and kind of dip it in there. Okay, so if we look at it, we are solidly in the yellow, maybe even close to red. So that kind of comports with what we've got here for our color, right? It kind of looks old. It's probably absorbed a little bit of water, and then, you know, as well, there might be some other brake issues kind of happening. So again, something to make sure we keep an eye on and we don't ignore. Once we're done with that, we carefully take this, making sure we don't track any dirt, and we have to loosen this as well. We have to kind of tighten this as we hold this top piece here so that it gets on there. It's plastic to plastic, and then we will click this back in place like so. We will place this cap that we took off over here and kind of snap this down a little bit. And then of course we have our little doodad here that we need to clip in there. So if you do that first and then you kind of push down, everything should be good to go. And then one final thing is this little piece of rubber. So we'll just place that right there. And that's it.